You're tuned in to the Restaurant Rockstars Podcast. Powerful ideas to rock your restaurant. Here's your host, Roger Beaudoin.
You know, I'll bet your menu isn't maximizing your profit. I've worked with many restaurants that lost hundreds of thousands of dollars in potential profit because their lowest profit items were their most popular sellers, stealing sales from their highest profit items. Day in, day out, month after month. It's possible to train your staff to suggest your highest profit items immediately and then redesign a menu where every item in each category contributes a similar profit. You're in business to make money. Stop losing it with an unprofitable menu. My Restaurant Academy has the solution. It's called the Menu Profit Accelerator at restaurantrockstars.com. Menufy works with the best independent restaurants in the business to not just compete, but stand out. Menufy uplevels SEO, takes direct online orders, markets to your guests, and manages your online reputation. You get a custom-branded, SEO-optimized website. Powerful data that you control without losing 30% to third parties. Automated customer feedback, loyalty programs, marketing tools, built-in chargeback protection, and 24/7 support. Menufy is simple, powerful, and fully managed. Learn more at restaurant.menufy.com. Welcome back, everyone, to the Restaurant Rockstars Podcast. Thanks for being with us. Ed, welcome to the show today. How are you?
Hi, Roger. Thank you for having me.
Well, I meet some very interesting people on this show, and you are no exception. You've got a illustrious history of experience with Brinker International and Chili's, and those names need no introduction. Can you tell us, Ed, some of the key learnings along the way in your career that you now apply to your current position, and also things that might help our audience improve their restaurant operations? Anything really stand out over the years?
Oh, boy. Well, thank you for that intro. That was very nice. Yeah, there was a lot of things that stood out. I was with Brinker International at Chili's division for almost 30 years. And some of my key takeaways from being with that brand was people are the power. Your people that you have working for you are the power. And that came from Norman Brinker, who bought Chili's and was the one that really put it on the map and took us public. And I had the opportunity to work with Norman, not directly one-on-one, but as a young manager being out at his ranch and going through the obstacle courses. And Norman would cruise up on his ATV and just share his wisdom with us. His restaurant visits were always very subtle. He would come, not actually, let me back that up, not so subtle. He would actually stand outside the restaurant and ask people, hey, tell me about this place. And is it any good? And we knew who he was, but the guest had no idea. So here's our not really the founder, but the person that really took Chili's to where it was at. Getting into the trenches with the team, really checking in and getting the pulse of what is going on in the restaurants. That was a big lesson for me, because really you're only as good as what the guests think of you and what your team thinks of you. And I think the other piece that was really enlightening to me was surround yourself with good people, hire good people. I know that sounds simple, but really take the time to put the right people in place that understand the vision of what you're trying to do with hospitality, the quality, and all those magical things that make it happen in the restaurant. Being able to accept feedback. That was another big one too. And understand that feedback sometimes maybe not be the thing you want to hear, but you need to hear. And processing that to have you get better either individually or as an organization. And there was many examples of that. And what I would say is another piece I thought was very amazing was the infrastructure of the leadership. And by surrounding himself with great people, the next person that stepped up was always ready to fill that position. And I think that's what helped Chili's be what it is today. And watching how well it's doing now, very exciting to see.
Wow, there's a lot to unpack there, and I appreciate you sharing. One, I really appreciate you using the word leadership, because I'm a huge believer in true leadership versus management and empowerment of team. Sounds like that is definitely part of the past of the key learnings. But it's interesting too, there's also that nugget about being the guy in charge and showing up and literally asking the guests, what do you think about this? And getting a true honest answer, and then really getting, like you said, getting in the trenches with the team, not being too important. You've probably seen that show Undercover Boss, where this turns into the dishwasher at the restaurant or whatever it is. He didn't quite go that far, but he showed that he cared. It sounds like he showed that every individual person, he had the respect of every single person. He gave that respect, and he learned a lot from spending time in the stores. And there's so much to that. So I appreciate you sharing. That's fantastic. So why Broken Yolk Café? What led you from your past history to this breakfast and lunch and brunch place called Broken Yolk.
Yeah, so that was quite a journey. Ironically, I used to live down at Pacific Beach in my 20s. And guess where I used to go to brunch?
That place, because that
Broken
was the
Yolk
origin,
Pacific
right? It
Beach.
was Pacific Beach. Okay.
The original one.
Yeah.
So it is a brand that at that time was very well known in San Diego. We weren't really probably well known outside at that point. It was only one. But man, that we were the place to be back then. And always had respect for the brand. I never really worked in the breakfast segment before. And what made me leave and move on, I was 30 years at Brinker. I had some life changes happen. I had a grandson that was born. I
Congratulations.
live in San Diego. I think I told you in Oceanside.
Yes.
And I had some traveling I was doing and stuff like that. So priorities changed and I was looking to go somewhere local. So I was interviewing with other local brands that were based out of San Diego. And ironically, I just got a phone call when I was going to offer with another company. And it just worked out. And I said, Broken Yolk, I wouldn't have thought that they were hiring because you never saw anything posted. So it just appeared and I came in and I got to meet with John, who's the owner. And I knew then, I don't know if you've ever really just connected with somebody when you meet them and you kind of see the vision of where they want to go and just who they are as a person and how they want to get there. Yeah. And I just knew. And fortunately for me, John felt the same way. And so that started my journey about 2 years ago here. So it got me local to be around with my grandson more, but also I landed it with a brand that I had a lot of respect for as a consumer also. And as kind of like a competitor when I was at Chili's.
And the old memories came flooding back, right? From when you're in your 20s and now look at you. I'm an integral part of a brand that meant a lot to me when I was a younger person. That's beautiful. I love that. So we talked about Norm's philosophies about staff and about the way he approached the business. Do you, as director of operations, integrate some of those learnings? And let's talk about staffing. And of course, most of my audience, a lot of us are struggling with the hiring and finding the great people like you mentioned. And accountability and expectations and getting the most out of your people. What are your philosophies about, one, onboarding people? How do you train them? And then how do you maintain accountability so that you get great performance out of them, but they're also representing the brand as you want them representing it to your guest?
That's a great question. And in full transparency, my role here, it's a little bit different because we have one corporate location, that's Pacific Beach, and the rest of it's franchise. So all the hiring is done within the franchise groups and their staffing and things like that. But what we try to carry over with that is what to look for in somebody. It's, hey, do they have the hospitality gene? You can teach the skills. I can teach somebody how to work in a kitchen or greet a guest, but do you have that special sauce of, hey, you really like people? Because you got to have to like people to be in this business. Now, what I have seen coming out, and I think really where we got hit was COVID. Let's be honest. That's where you saw staffing crunches. And then even coming out of that, a little bit more challenging when coming back into business when we started opening up. But I feel we're in a different place now. I do feel like there's people to hire. I don't feel like there's a shortage of people. I just think it's really taking the time to hire the right person and then invest the training. And I think that's something that gets skipped sometimes, that people want to speed that process up to get somebody out there and start working. Well, take the time, make sure they understand the job, make sure that you're taking time to coach them, make them feel like they're part of something, create that time for them because they're part of your team. And then, hey, if you need to redirect, it's okay to redirect, but do it in a positive, principled way. Doesn't mean you need to scream and yell at somebody, but how do you connect with them to understand how do you make them better? So taking that time to work with your team, train them properly, check in on them too. And I talked about Norman asking guest feedback. And it's funny because John does the similar thing. They kind of remind me of each other in some ways, but also doing the same thing with your staff. And I think that's one thing that John and also Norman Brinker did a really good job of. It wasn't you check in with your guests, but you're also checking in with your team. And when you're checking in with your team, you know what maybe obstacles they might be facing in their life. And no, you can't solve everything, but are you there to help support them? And I think that goes a long way. Doing that, you're helping provide them to make a good living. And in doing that, hey, we all win together.
Fantastic. So it sounds like there's mentorship and team bonding and all those types of things that keep people and give them future opportunities so that they're not jumping ship and that you have longevity versus turnover. All those things kind of fit into place, but it sounds like you've got the foundation for that.
We're working on it.
Okay. Well, thanks for sharing. Let's talk about the volume that your stores are doing. Just under $3 million in a breakfast and brunch concept. Yeah. Now, that's amazing. What's the key to doing that? I'll tell you why. just before the pandemic, after I'd sold all my full service restaurants that had dinner and lunch menus and full bars and live entertainment and all that kind of stuff, I had the brilliant idea of buying a restaurant just before the pandemic hits. And what was it? It was a breakfast place, your grandma's breakfast place with the booths and the old fashioned counter service and all that kind of stuff. And 3 months later, what happened?
Oh, man.
Right? So as challenging as those days were, one of the biggest challenges was, how do we optimize the profits of this place? We brought in alcohol. They didn't serve. We did the mimosas and the Bloody Marys and all those things. What are some of the keys for Broken Yolk to achieving those kinds of numbers?
Yeah, so I think for Broken Yolk, what stands out to me, you'll hear that tagline, brunch on the sunny side. And that's kind of who we are. As the folks coming in, it's about the experience.
I like
It's just,
that.
you got to deliver the food, as you well know. You've got to be focused on your quality, make sure that you're not sacrificing there and not sacrificing on what the value is for what the consumer's paying for. But also, what's the experience when they come in? So the designs of our restaurants and the vibe, and like we talked about with staffing, how do we train them to deliver that experience? That to me is the difference. That's the piece where in doing that, you're having guests wanting to come back. The value's there. I remember the days where if you had great food, this experience wasn't maybe that as a big of a deal. Today, it's the combination of the two, because everything's about the experience. What kind of experience are we having there to want to go back? So we really focus in on that. To your point on that average volume at 2.7, what's amazing to me also when I came aboard, that's an eight-hour day part. We're doing that in 8 hours. So traditionally we're open from 7 to 2 during the week. Some locations, maybe 3 on the weekends till 3 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturdays and Sundays. So you're doing that in a very condensed period of time. Where I came from, it was lunch and dinner. So you're doing that over a longer period of time.
As my experience, most of it was. Exactly.
Yeah. So it's very fast paced. And I think, again, with that, you got to stay on top of that. You got to make sure that you're getting your ticket times are in line. People aren't coming in to wait a long time for their food, but you're making sure that you're delivering on those ticket times, you're delivering on the quality of the food, and it's being served with a smile, and not just a smile, but a sincere connection.
Absolutely. You spoke to a word that I really appreciate, and it's affinity, which is a really powerful sense of loyalty or belonging. So you've got regulars that are brand ambassadors for the business. They probably tell everybody about it. Your online reviews are probably positive. And this is great because it's a competitive advantage over some of the biggest names of the business, the national chains. And we don't need to mention them, but some of the biggest breakfast chains in this country, you're exceeding their volume, which speaks volumes in my regard. You're doing some amazing things right. So that's tremendous. Do you know what the average profit margin is per store?
I can't really get into detailed numbers on the profitability side, but what I can say, it definitely is a very favorable profit margin. Yeah. What I would say also, when you talked about breakfast and delivering those numbers and margins and everything, this was a sweet spot when you considered the breakfast, the price of eggs and those kind of things. That was your cheapest food cost. Well, gosh, what happened this last year, right? But again, that's kind of stabilized, so we're in a better place with that. But
let's go there for just a moment, Ed.
Sure.
Because, of course, I hate the word pivot because it's been so overused since the pandemic. But, okay, all of a sudden, egg prices super spike. And what do? Do you pass that on to the consumer? Do you take a temporary hit because you don't think it's going to last very long? Do you shift the menu around? Your menu is so egg heavy. What did you do?
Yeah, so you're right. I mean, when we looked at it, our product, 80% of our items had eggs in it. And so what we did, and we were going into our LTO, which was going to be focused on an egg dish. To your point, I agree with you. The word is overused, but very appropriate for this because it was a pivot. It's like, okay, wait a minute, let's step back and what can we do? So we got with our culinary director and said, our lunch business makes up about 10%, 15% of our overall product mix. And so with that said, you're kind of not challenged. We would go through something like this with my past experience, we almost depleted the rib market the last place I worked at because we had rib promotions, and it was a while ago, but ribs looked pretty lean on getting them. You were able to pivot to something else like a burger, or you're able to pivot to something else that was, hey, let's move your attention over here. But when you're dealing with the egg situation, there was a lot of areas to go to. So what we did is we came up with the vegan approach to it. So we have all vegan products. We have vegan eggs, vegan meats, and that was our LTO. And the LTO actually did very well, and it helped offset some of that cost of the eggs. So we were on an inventory side, because even with that said, yeah, the prices were crazy, but being able to get them became even a bigger concern.
Oh,
Actually
exactly.
getting your delivery.
Yep.
So
Absolutely.
that helped a lot. And then as far as, and I don't know if I'm going too deep on this, stop me if I am, but hey, we had to look at how can we offset some of that cost? I mean, how can we move this around because the prices have quadrupled? I mean, it's a very negative impact. We were able to go to a couple of our vendors, a supply vendor, a restaurant supply vendor, and say, hey, start working on our pricing. Let's look at our plateware, our restaurant supply package. What can we do and what can you do for us? And what was really nice about that, we were able in that particular deal save about 50% on all of our supplies, our restaurant supplies, by looking at different vendors and moving things around. So yeah, it didn't help everything, but we were able to go have something after something was within our control to help offset that.
That's tremendous. That was my philosophy always when I owned restaurants. It was always shopping around suppliers, always asking for better pricing. Some of these larger suppliers that I'm sure you work with obviously bring in new products all the time. Sometimes they buy them in huge volumes versus what you're buying now. And if you don't ask, you don't get, right? So they can pass savings on to you if you say, hey, you know what I'm buying now. Is there anything comparable with the quality and the taste profile? You get the idea. And I'll taste a sample of it. And I think it's going to work if I can get a better price on it. Again, shop things around across the board. And that's a smart, resourceful thing to do. So that's definitely a key nugget for the audience there. Do you believe in these challenging economic times? I mean, labor is through the roof, especially in the kitchen, of course, the highest wages ever. We can't ever go backwards. We can only go forward. So that lowers margins. And then the volatility of the food markets. And not everyone has the volume, of course, of a growing national chain. But what can we do to at least maintain our margins and not let them slide? Is it possible to grow margins today? Running a restaurant means juggling a lot: menus, orders, payments, and keeping everything consistent. Menutiger makes that easier. With Menutiger, guests scan a QR code at their table to see your digital menu, place their order, and even pay right from their phone. Behind the scenes, you can update menus instantly with custom branding, manage multiple locations, track sales with real-time analytics, even add upsells or collect guest feedback. It's simple, efficient, and built for restaurants of all sizes. Try Menutiger today and see how much smoother your restaurant can run. Get started at menutiger.com.
I believe so. And I think one thing that you have to look at, it's important to get the margins, but hey, how are you growing the top line sales too? And it's a combination of the two. So what are your strategies to drive the people in to get the sales? Very important, foot traffic and the sales. But then when you start looking at the margins and when you talk about labor, especially here in California, I mean, it's the fast food minimum wage is $20 an hour to start in the kitchens. Right. So that really kind of raised the bar.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you've got to exceed that if you want to get people in. Or offer them a better company culture, more fun environment, the recognition rewards programs, not just a generic, everybody's doing the same old thing every single day thing. You got to set yourself apart from the competition. But I hear what you're saying. That was the bar, and everybody knows that, hey, I can go to Mickey D's or Burger King. I can get $20 an hour, or In-N-Out or Sonic or whatever they are. We have to do a little bit more, I think.
Yeah, and I think you're looking at this whole progression with AI. There's Absolutely. A lot there. You see that, and boy, it's really moving fast. And if you're not involved with it, you're going to want to get on board because there's productivity that can help. I think when you look at like what we talked about earlier, hey, really stay close to your pricing and who you can negotiate, work with your vendors. That's always important. Don't let up on that. And then the staffing side of it, and when we talk about labor, really looking at the efficiencies with labor, how you're preparing things, how is it efficient? And that way, in being efficient, you're able to probably reduce some of those hours to make it, you're going to capture some there. We were playing around with what we call our robot, Speedy. We have one of those robots that comes out and delivers the food. And there's capability there. I'm not telling everybody that's the answer, but there's an example of technology that helps us. Hey, we got a large party and the server can't run all the plates. Guess who's right behind her or him? It's going to be Speedy delivering the rest of that. Hey, I'm bussing the masses during Saturday and Sunday, bussing all the tables. I can just run around with that thing loaded up and it goes back to the dish area. So there's an example of trying to use technology to speed things up and get some more efficiencies out of it. I think you have to be careful with the pricing piece. You probably can relate to this.
Let's talk about that.
Everybody takes the price, but then when do you break that value side of it? And I don't think value is always about the price because you're paying for the experience also. So
agreed.
you got to be careful. It's either on that, well, let's just take another increase. Well, can you go get it somewhere else? And I think, like I said, looking at different P&L lines of where you can manage that, working on good deals, working on the efficiencies. And again, with efficiencies, kitchen layouts, designs, does it make sense? When you're standing there and you're working in a station, are you running back and forth? Or are you just standing there doing what you need to do? So time and motion opportunities. And we've captured some of that. When we do our recent rollouts, we really go into the kitchen for our LTOs and go, okay, does that make sense? Let's get in here and see how many steps it takes to prepare that. Because that's time, it's labor. Those are things that can help save.
Are the LTOs more profitable than some of the other items? And there's a novelty to them because they're here today, gone tomorrow kind of thing. You create demand for something, but it's highly profitable to sell.
That's a great question. That's not our only pillar when we look at it. It is one of them on our, hey, what's the food cost look at? What are we going to be able to make on that item? Some do, but also what we're looking at is what is the consumer telling us about that product, because it may land on the menu. So what we're looking at is that, hey, what was the response rate to that? And so we had one recently, it was about 9 months ago, we had the salmon avocado toast, and it was the first time we brought in salmon, the smoked salmon, and did that dish. And man, that thing blew up. It was one of our higher food cost items, but
that's okay.
That profit on it.
For sharing, we're talking about profit over food costs, because there's that whole misunderstanding about, I want a low food cost, when you're really thinking about profit. And I don't care if the food cost is a little higher, if it's putting more dollars to the bottom line. So I'm really glad you mentioned that.
Yeah. And so there was an example like, hey, that's on the menu now. That was a permanent item.
So it
was a home run. And it's like, here you go.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like our testing environment also of like, hey, what's the consumer say about this?
That's fantastic. Do you think that the breakfast brunch model is more recession proof than, say, a dinner place?
So I got that question beforehand. I really had to think about that, because in some ways, yes. But if you talked about this last year with the recession and cost and everything, it was challenging, but we were able to get through that. I think every place has its own obstacles. I do. I think it just depends. But do I think there will always be a place for breakfast and brunch? And if you do it right, people will come back? Absolutely. Again, because when it goes back to, if you come here on a Saturday and Sunday, really any day of the week, but at this location in particular, you're walking around, you could see it's families. They're having a great time. It's somebody on their first date, or you got somebody sitting over at the other table that's been coming here for 35 years. And it's got that family vibe there. So when you come in, remember that old show, Cheers?
Oh, yeah. I'm a huge fan. Absolutely.
You tell people about how they go, what show? Well,
they have to go watch the reruns.
But it has that feeling. And to me, that is what makes people come back. Recession or not, they're gonna be able, they want to spend that money to get out. Now, would that mean, hey, if I typically come 3 times a week, I'm going to go down to 2 because I'm filling in my pocketbook? Yeah, that happens. I mean, you could see that. But again, I think when you deliver on the experience and not just try to operate off a profit, you do the right thing, they're going to come.
Excellent. I'm glad you brought up Cheers. I've been actually watching some of those things.
You do the reruns?
Oh, I absolutely do. It was a favorite show of mine decades ago.
Oh, yeah.
But the whole thing was people want to go where everybody knows their name. And that speaks to how you treat your guests, whether they're first-time visitors or they're loyal regulars. Every time somebody walks through the door, you want to treat them like, hey, Norm, they're a regular visitor. And I think that just adds so much to the marketing value, to the buzz in the marketplace, to people just feeling special this is our place. This is where we go. They treat us like we're old friends. And I love that. I think that's...
You, me both. I think that, I don't know about you, but don't you feel like the best marketing, and this is no knock on marketing at all. I think to me, your marketing department helps you bring them in, but the best marketing is within the 4 walls. That is where you can really seal the deal. And when your marketing team's done a job to get them in, you're keeping them to come back.
Yeah.
And I think that's the magic sauce. I think sometimes people lean too much on their marketing teams to say, come on, get them in. Well, yeah, but that's a team effort thing. As operations, now we've got to deliver on them coming in and having the experience that our marketing team has promised them.
So that goes back to staffing and the kinds of people you hire, and whether you hire for experience or really personality and approach, because you can train for the rest. But then what is the training that really allows people to be themselves, use their own unique personality, but to make friends with the guests, to create that repeat business? I mean, it's so much more than just bringing the food and giving them a menu, taking the order, bringing the food, giving them the check. I mean, it's all about salesmanship, personality, entertainment. It's like being a personality is a big part of it. Is there any specific training that goes on franchise-wide?
Well, what we have is a training platform. It's called PlayerLink, and our director of training has done a phenomenal job of just redoing some of those decks and videos. So you might be able to relate with this. Is back in the day, you got your packet, you got your book,
Oh,
you
yeah.
sat down and you
The
got
manual.
right, plug in a video and go, hey, watch this, and it's 5-6 days. And what I think you've seen brands evolve to is that it's quick snippets. It's the important stuff. Here's 3-minute video. Here's a very structured program, but it's condensed to deal with what you really need to get across. And I think it's more personalized and it's interactive. That's important, I think, because you lose people. I mean, you could walk by when they're doing their video thing, and that's not a connection. You're not teaching them anything.
Right.
And
Exactly.
I think and Crystal is our director of training, really going back on what we evaluated is that, hey, there seems to be sometimes gaps in the connection with hospitality. Like how do you seat people? How do you put them up in the front to make it look busy? Some of the old school stuff that's kind of missing. Hey, how to engage in a conversation when you're just walking with somebody. And she's actually gone through and done videos to show those examples. And so having that available to our franchisees to show, hey, here's a guest experience. These are connections, not for just our franchisees, but when they're training their people to really dial it in by department on, hey, what does hospitality look like? It looks like this. Here is an actual person doing this live, and here it is. Here's your training on how to do that. And then like the subtleties of when people come in or how you read the table. And like I told you before, where do you seat? Hey, it's kind of empty. Am I seating away in the back when the windows are wide open? Or do I want to sit up in front? So it looks like it's got a little synergy going on. Yeah,
For sure.
that's what I wanted. So those subtle cues, I think she's done a great job this last couple months of really getting that embedded and getting that message out for our teams.
Excellent. Fantastic. How many seats are in a typical location?
Oh, that's a great question. Seating, it ranges from, because locations vary in size.
Of course. Yep.
So I would say probably on average, we got probably like 300, 240, 250, 300.
That's a good size place then. Okay. Wow. What about table turns? I mean, you mentioned an 8-hour shift. You're getting people in and just moving the merchandise and moving the people in and out quickly. And there's another question coming after that one that relates to alcohol sales.
Can I ask you a quick question?
Please.
So when you did the transition to breakfast that time, what was the biggest thing you saw different? Like when you bought the breakfast place, did you notice anything really different?
Yeah. I mean, people tended to sit longer.
Really?
Yeah. And then when we brought in alcohol, they seemed to linger more over breakfast. And we did not have close to 200 seats. And there were lines out the door and all that before the pandemic hit, of course. But it's like, how do you get people in, give them a great experience, but we used to call them campers. And I know a lot of restaurants can relate to that term because it definitely affects profits and sales and all that kind of stuff if you can't move people in and out quickly and efficiently. And there's so many pieces to that. But I definitely saw that for some reason, people seem to linger longer than they did in our lunch and dinner restaurants.
So one thing that really stood out to me, because prior to coming here, I didn't really have breakfast experience other than dining out.
Yeah.
But it was the ticket times, the speed, eggs, omelets. It's quick. You're not timing it with other things that are going to take longer, like ribs and things like that. But the speed of how the food comes out, the ticket times are amazing. And if you're staffed properly, you're able to get those table turns. I think the other thing that I've seen is the opportunity in getting table turns is keeping it sat all the time. Off.
Yes.
Because then it's the seed of the kitchen, that wave that hits the kitchen, they get buried. But also that, hey, when you're on a wait, that's not a 40-minute wait. You're really on a 20-minute wait. But keep those tables sat. That one gets up, get it sat. Get it bust, let's get it sat. In doing that, you're able to turn faster. And I think it really starts at the host stand of teaching your host team to how to seat properly. Because sometimes you'll see it in a restaurant, you walk in, you're told a 40-minute wait, and you look around and you go, well, why is there 12 open tables here? What's going on?
Agreed.
That's revenue, that's a table turn, and that's slowing down the process. And then like when we get those sat, all those checks are going in at one time. So it disrupts the flow. And so what I've seen with this, when you time it right, you're staffed properly to take care of the guest, it's quick. And so those turns happen, even if they're having a cocktail, even if they're having a mimosa. I would say the average dining experience averages about an hour, about 45 minutes to an hour on your typical diner. Now, do you have some folks that sometimes come in and party at 9? they're celebrating something. Yeah, you're going to have that sometimes, but I think that's true anywhere.
I think it's also a benefit for breakfast not to take reservations. Okay, a dinner place, most people are used to, conditioned to call on the phone, make a reservation. Like I had several dinner places, but we never took reservations because I saw it as inefficient. Two of the parties show up when it's a party of five, and now the table's sitting there until the other people show up, and it slows things down. People show up late for the reservation. It's just an inefficient thing, at least for me. I'm sure it works for many restaurants, but for me, it was all about efficiency, turning those tables, giving people the best experience we could within that time, and giving the next round the same experience. So I definitely agree with that. Let's talk about alcohol sales. What percentage of the business is alcohol? I know you're doing 12-ounce mimosas and other things. All those pictures look really appealing on the website. The food photos are beautiful. The cocktails, it looks like a really inviting place. Does it make up much of the product mix?
I would give you a system-wide percentage, but I would say it really, again, depends on the demographic.
Sure.
Footprint in Vegas. Yeah. And boy, that market, absolutely. Our flights and that one's alcohol mix is through the roof.
Right.
And they're doing a great job with it. I would say roughly it's about 10 to 12% on the overall mix for the brand itself. So it's not huge, but also I wouldn't say it's terrible. But like I said, there's certain locations where it could be up to 25, 30% because of just where they're located. So that's an area where we're continuing to grow. We've been evaluating our options, and we just came up with a whole new flight program that we're piloting at our San Diego State location, or we're getting ready to roll that. We're rolling that tomorrow there, and we also have it out in our Yuma location. And those, I'll tell you, the mimosa side of things, it's a great product. And even our Bloody Mary flights, that's our wheelhouse. It's our flights. I would say that's where they're easy to execute. Well, always be careful of the word easy. They're friendly to execute.
Okay.
And you're able to get those out quick, and you're able to get that incremental sale. And yeah, they're important. I think when people come in, they're looking for that, especially the brunch theme. They're looking for that mimosa. They're looking for that cocktail option. And if you didn't, you're kind of at a disadvantage, I think.
I agree. Yeah. Once we brought in the alcohol, that brought in people, and that became a staple as well. And you're also doing limited time offers in the beverages as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it could be an NA thing, an NA bev that we'll do also, because we've seen where
that's
you've
huge
probably
these
seen
days.
the same thing. The alcohol sales are down. The alcohol reps are like, my gosh, we're down 10% year over year. And so that's a category that's really growing right now, is the NA, being created with the NA category, non-alcoholic category. And we just did a promotion, gosh, it was about 5 months ago with Red Bull that landed on our menu. So we have 2 NA options, and then we made 2 cocktails with the Red Bull. And it's doing fairly well. We're selling on average about 4 items a day, which is pretty good. And that's system-wide on average. So that's a good example that we look at those kind of things. And I think I left this out a little bit, is that I think on the innovation side, we're always looking at new things. And I think that's important. Always looking at what the trends are, utilizing our vendor partners and their chefs and everything we possibly can to see, hey, what's the new thing coming out? Where can we be different? And I give John a lot of credit, our owner, for that. He is very innovative. He always wants to look at it. What's the next thing that we can be part of? And that's kept us fresh, I think, after all these years.
Excellent. Yeah, that's great advice. We sort of had a mantra. It's like, play your best game, but keep your eye on the competition and always see what they're doing and stay ahead of it. So it sounds like you're doing the same thing. That's tremendous. What about online wait list? Is that working for you?
Yeah, it's getting there. I'll be honest. It's having the system understand it and trust in it. So we're going back through some training on it. We use Yelp. So it's one of those, you can go in and put your name in. It works really well. It's just trusting in the system of the accurate quotes, and when people don't show, how to handle it.
Exactly.
We're about 50, I'll be honest, we're about 50% at the execution of it. But what's nice is that we're working on it. We're setting up webinars for our teams and making sure that we have, then that player link I spoke about.
Right.
We have a training module in there about how to leverage it. And we actually have Yelp working with some of our franchise partners also to help change some of the beliefs around it. Because I've seen when it's working, it's great, because I can go on there and put my name in and say I'm going to show up in an hour, and I don't have to sit there for an hour. I can show up within that hour and be sat, or pretty close to that time.
Yeah.
So you said something about reservations, and I held on to that because we're actually testing that at a location, in our Palm Springs location, to see how that goes, because it's seasonal. And
Yeah.
we get a lot of large parties. So we're going to be going into a test at our Palm
Okay.
Springs location. So I'll let you know how it goes.
Well, it's good that you're testing and that you're keeping your eye on what may be the next progressive innovation. That's what it's all about. And not just
Yeah.
you got to stay relevant in the market.
Yeah.
And you're certainly doing that. You mentioned the salmon toast being a big hit. Okay, that's a menu item that became a sort of marketing thing because people talked about it and it exploded. Now it's on the regular menu. Let's shift gears and talk about some marketing, either big wins or things you thought were going to be a big idea that just kind of flopped. Anything come to mind?
Yeah, so I got with our marketing director, Connor, on that because he's the one that really has been doing a fantastic job with that. And I think one of the things that we were discussing was looking at the local marketing. And so for like our franchisees, they're generally responsible for their local marketing. But if somebody hasn't shown somebody how to really do that, how successful can you be at that, right?
Mhm.
And our belief is, hey, that's really that is another big thing because you can do a marketing campaign, but if you're not really tied into your local community at that local level,
I totally
you're not
agree.
the place. You just
Mhm.
become another chain restaurant.
Right.
You
Yep.
know, that's something that I took away from Chili's also was be the local place. Yeah, you're a chain, but you're Chili's Oceanside.
Community
that's
spirit and
there
giving
you
back
go.
to the community, involving yourself, having events that involve the community. All those things are important. Great.
So there was a gap there. There was a gap on how
Yeah.
to execute that and do that properly. And what Connor and the team did a great job of. So that was an opportunity. But then going back and look at how do we get better at that? How can we improve that? And boy, I'll tell you, it's really moving in the right direction. And we have a couple locations or remote locations that they're new to the market. They're new to that state. And that, boy, how important is that, right? You got the people know who you are and what you are. And by putting together some programs and training decks and things like that and working directly with their marketing teams, showing them the ways to get out there and impact the local marketing, how to go out there and make the connection, where to go and how to leverage that. And what we've seen with that, especially two outlier markets that are newer markets for us, they have done a great job where before it was a little soft and now what you're seeing is incremental sales going up. And so you're seeing that new traffic, not just sales, but traffic going up. And so it's nice because they have like they have a toolbox now that they can go into and pull up and learn how to do that. And then also a resource within our local marketing or within our marketing director and team and how to lean into that without doing it for them, but helping guide them through that. So that was one that was an opportunity that I think that we did a good job of addressing and moving forward with.
What about the rewards program? Now, back in the day, there used to be, oh, you buy 5 omelets and get one free. And that's
punch
old
card?
school. Punch cards, pawn books, all that old school stuff. But now things are in the digital age. You've got an app for your company and you've got a rewards program. Is that a hit? Big hit? And how does it work?
Yeah, so that was another one. I think we have done a really good job of tweaking that recently. And again, I'll put that on our marketing director, Connor, because he came in and he was looking at that going, that could be more compelling. Like, hey, and it's kind of the same news.
Yeah.
So the old system was, hey, you spent $1, you got $1. So it was digital and people got their points. And then at a certain point, you get to like 200 points, you got a $10 coupon. What we moved to now is it's still point based, but also the promotions that he'll be able to run are also targeting our loyal members. So it could be on how often they come in and what you're going to send to them, or it can be what are the items that they ordered that are compelling to them to come in instead of customizing or just creating a broadcast message, but really trying to customize the message to those consumers. Like, hey, you're our loyal guest, come back in. So kind of like that special treatment piece. And so that revitalizing that. He also went through and reskin on our app, redoing that to make sure it's more relevant and up to date to what we are today with our color schemes and all that fun stuff. So it's been really cool to see that grow. The redemption rates are higher. You're seeing people sign up more frequently, and it's been received pretty well. And I'll be honest, they were worried about the beginning, like it's all the legacy people, right?
Yes.
Hey, we're changing the program. And really no hiccups to mention of.
Terrific.
You got one or two folks who are like, hey,
Yeah.
tell me about that more. But overall, it's been very successful.
Terrific. Well, like you said, technology, especially AI, is just light speed. And every day there's a new innovation. And restaurant owners traditionally have been a little reluctant, but I think they're getting more into it and they're seeing what it can do to change their business and how easy it is to design a menu or put a marketing program in place. So you can type anything in and it's going to give you a pretty solid idea of what to do. And that's not intimidating. That's just good business. So,
Oh, tell me about it. I had our training director just taught me about Chat GBT, and I've heard of it and all that.
yeah, of course.
Yeah, and I'm like, and then she sat down with me to show you. Like I was
Look what
working on a
it'll do.
report and I was doing this thing. She goes, "How long did it take?" I got about an hour and a half, and she goes, "Watch this." Did the same thing, and she plugged in there, and she goes, "It took 5 minutes to get me the same data," and I'm like, "Oh my gosh!" After that, I signed up and I'm in because just in that particular piece, it's like, my goodness, this is moving. It's moving fast.
Can do just about anything. I can't
Oh
think
yeah.
of anything it can't do. I've experimented with it too. And you'll type in the most obscure thing and it'll give you a reasonable answer that literally answers your question about whatever it was. It's pretty amazing.
So I was talking to one of our franchisees the other day, or potential franchisees, and we were chatting, and he goes, and we got on that topic, right? And
Yeah.
he goes, "I plugged the same information in that I gave to my lawyer, and it gave me the same, close to the same answer, except the difference being it didn't cost me $5,000.
All right.
And I
Right.
was like, whoa.
I think it's going to put a lot of businesses out of business if they
Yeah,
don't stay
it's gonna
relevant
change
and
it.
keep up with it. It's changing
Yeah.
everything. Yeah. Ed, it's been a super pleasure talking to you today. Thanks for being a great guest on the Restaurant Rockstars podcast.
Oh, it was a pleasure meeting you. Thank you, Roger. Take care and have a good day.
Thank you so much. That, of course, was another episode of Restaurant Rockstars Podcast. Thank you so much, audience, for tuning in. Thank you to our sponsors this week, and we hope you all stay well, stay tuned, and we'll see you next time. That's a wrap.
Thanks for listening to the Restaurant Rockstars Podcast. For lots of great resources, head over to restaurantrockstars.com. See you next time.